This is literally an ex al-Qaeda chief playing basketball with the U.S. Armed Forces. I want to see his shot again, because I also would like to point out that this jihadist, his basketball game, yeah, even though it went in, that's a garbage shot. I just want everyone to know. If you don't play basketball, that was a garbage shot, okay? It might have gone in, because they probably filmed until he made one. But I'm just saying, it was like borderline two hands. That guy's had no idea what he's doing, okay, on the basketball court. He has no right to be out there. Like, if there's one thing we should respect in this fucking country, don't pretend that the al-Qaeda executioners that we now respect and love are good basketball players. Don't do it. Don't do it, okay? That's all I ask. I feel like that's not much. Ex-jihadist and current Syrian president that the U.S. installed in Syria by destroying their entire country, killing like 1 million people. He's at the White House for some landmark talks. Syria's president, Ahmed al-Shara, is to meet U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House on Monday for unprecedented talks, just days after Washington removed him from a terrorism blacklist. It's always good when you have someone over the White House. Hey, just as a nice little visitor gift, take them off the terrorism watch list. Just a little thing. Shara, whose rebel forces ousted longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad late last year with the help of Israel and the help of the United States, will be the first Syrian leader to visit the White House since the country's independence in 1946. Formerly affiliated with al-Qaeda, Shara's group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, was itself only delisted as a terrorist group in July. Basically, he was one of the heads of al-Nusra, which is an al-Qaeda offshoot. And now he's our best buddy, because you have to understand that in our collapsing empire, there is no moral line. There is no moral ground. It is all empty, vapid. It is money and nothing else. There is nothing that has meaning. Not human lives, not humanity, not love, none of it except money. And so, if you stare at the situation of, let's say, Syria, and you only put it through the lens of money, you throw out the lens of how will the humanity of Syria do? How will the culture of Syria do? How will the people, how will they do? How will the children of Syria do? You throw all that out and you just stare at it through the lens of money. You go, okay, well, it doesn't matter who leads Syria as long as they're doing what we want. And Bashar al-Assad is not doing what we want. The most terrifying thing for the United States is a country that can pump oil outside of the U.S. dollar. And Syria could do that. And Syria dropped the U.S. dollar. The first thing that the U.S. did, even before they got rid of Assad, was take over the oil fields. Most of the oil fields were in the 30% of Syria that the U.S., quote unquote, owned, took over. So that was step one. And you're also cutting off a revenue stream, right? So you make it so that oil can't be pumped outside the U.S. dollar. You also make sure that Syria can't get money from that oil. So therefore, the people can more effectively starve, because that's part of the goal as well in our dirty war on Syria, was make the people starve. And we succeeded. 94% of Syrians were, and probably still are, below the poverty line. 94%. Sure, there's people and children starving or dying of lack of medication all the time. We don't always know the percentage of the numbers, but it's in the hundreds of thousands. And we go, yes, that's working perfectly. Because again, there is no morality. There is no lens to look at the situation other than money. The United States has removed Ahmed al-Shara from the terrorist lists. This is from Al Jazeera. The U.S. Department of Treasury removed him, a former fighter linked to al-Qaeda, from the specially designated global terrorist list on Friday. The United Nations Security Council also removed al-Shara from a largely symbolic sanctions list on Thursday. So the UN is in love with this mass murder as well. This is so lovely. Isn't it lovely to see everyone come together like this? Washington and the UN also removed Anas Hassan Khattab, a former fighter linked to al-Qaeda, but now serving as Syria's interior minister. It's not just an al-Qaeda guy in the presidential spot. It's also the guys around him are also al-Qaeda. You got to bring your friends with you. I respect that. That's called loyalty. I don't care if they're all al-Qaeda. Come on, join us. Join us in the presidential palace in Syria. It is once you take off your al-Qaeda uniform and you put on your little business suit and you say, hey, I'm part of the Western Empire. You're not living in a cave, eating out of a tin can. It's just so nice. So nice. I'm so proud of that al-Shara guy. He really has achieved a lot. Retired U.S. diplomat Robert Ford, and talking about how they brought in al-Shara from being jihadist, from, cutting people's heads off because they were the wrong religion or what have you, or wouldn't support his cause. And how the MI6 and the U.S. brought him in and started working with him.
Starting in 2023, a British non-government organization, which specializes in conflict resolution, invited me to help them bring this guy out of the terrorist world and into regular politics. And at first, I have to tell you, I was very leery of going. I sort of had images of me in an orange jumpsuit with a knife to my throat. But after talking to several people who had gone in, and one of whom had met him, I decided to take the chance.
You'll notice by him admitting that he was afraid they might chop his head off, he's also admitting that these are guys that chop people's heads off. So he's admitting what they are. He's just saying it might be safe for him to have gone at that time, but he's not saying it's safe to be around these guys and not have your head chopped off.
And so the first time I met him, this guy's name is nom de guerre, was Abdulkader Jolani, but his actual name is Ahmed Shara, which he only revealed to the world after he captured Damascus in the Blitzkrieg of December 2024, about 5 months ago. First time I met him, I sat down next to him, and I'm literally as close as I am to Roy, and I said, this is all in Arabic, I said, never in a million years could I imagine that I would be sitting next to you. Long beard, thin fatigues. And he looked at me, he speaks very softly, and he said, Walla ana, me neither. And we went on and actually had a pretty civil conversation. I share this because he said something which really piqued my interest. He never apologized for the terrorist attacks in Iraq or in Syria, although there were many fewer in Syria. Never apologized. But he also said,
just remember that part, never apologize. Not like this is a changed man. It's not like he's done being a bloodthirsty executioner. He just realized there were more effective ways to take over Syria.
Now I am governing an opposition-held area of northwest Syria, and I am learning that the tactics and the principles that I was following in Iraq do not apply when you actually have to govern 4 million people. And they had 2 million residents of that area of Syria, and then another 2 million refugees who had come there from other parts of Syria. So they had a population of 4 million. He said, I am learning that to govern, you have to make compromises. I was very struck by that.
He didn't apologize. He just realized that if he took off his fatigues and did what the United States wants, then he can take over Syria, which they helped him do. And here's this guy admitting, that these are bloodthirsty executioner jihadists, and it's useful for our empire. Because again, the only lens through for every decision is money and power. That is it. They are ethnically cleansing in Syria, and even CNN has done a little reporting on that. Ethnic cleansing, they're chanting in the video that shows Syrian government-aligned forces reveling in massacre of minorities in a coastal town. And then they go on to tell the story of just one family who the father of the family said, don't worry, as they came to town. These are al-Shara's forces, government forces. As they came to town, the father told the family, don't worry, they're not after us. They're only after people that supported Bashar al-Assad. And then they ultimately killed the father and the brother. So that wasn't true. They were just out for killing anyone that wasn't of the same tribe, as they say, the same group, the in-group. And that's called ethnic cleansing. And we're inviting this guy to the White House to be very excited that we now have such an awesome president of Syria. One more note that the al-Shara, who's at the White House right now, also good friend with Israel and was fine with Israel blowing up all of Syria's military weaponry. It's not like they were still fighting Assad and Israel helped them to take away Assad's weaponry. I mean, that happened as well. But I'm saying this article here from Reuters is talking about Israel says its airstrikes destroyed most of Syria's strategic weapons stockpiles. This is after Assad was gone. And why was Israel doing this after Assad was gone? Because they don't know who's going to come into power. They don't know whether al-Shara will change his mind and start acting differently. So they figured, well, we'll just blow up Syria's military weaponry and then we don't have to worry about it because they'll be defenseless and we can do whatever we want. And guess what? New prez of Syria didn't have a problem with it. Totally fine. Yeah, blow up all of our military weaponry. Now, it's not like I want Mr. al-Qaeda to have military weaponry, so it's not like I care either way. It's just, does it sound like he's a little bit in bed with U.S., Western, and Israeli aims if he's fine with Israel blowing up all of their military weaponry?